difficult thing had to do with how could you tell a story based on this complicated historical event. And the fights with the Japanese historians about it.
It became more and more clear that the Tokyo trial is a heavy subject in Japan and for the Japanese people, because in Japan people still think very mixed about the justification of the trial. So therefore NHK wanted to be as exactly as possible to the reality.
100,000 people were killed in one night in Tokyo.
With the script we started working in Holland with a Dutch writer and a writer-director and the Japanese people. We realized that there would be a native English speaker, a writer to do the final drafts.
I knew that I had to bring Rob on board this production. I just knew that he would be able to handle the dialogue, the history, these characters, and especially because the risk that we ran with this is you've got 11 talking heads in a room, and to try and keep that dialogue scintillating and moving and driving all the time.
I sort of fell in love with the project because I knew nothing about the Tokyo trial. I became very interested in it. I worked on it for months and had hundreds and hundreds of pages of research before we ever got shooting. I've probably done something like 16 drafts of each of the 4 scripts.
This is an untold story. In the West, people don't know that much about the Asian side of the Second World War.
The fact that we didn't hear about one of the biggest war crime trials, Tokyo trial, in itself is a hugely interesting and important question to ask why that is.
The subject is rather sensitive and it's still quite controversial. I don't think there is a common consensus about the events, in particular in Japan.
It's a really interesting story. It's really interesting what happened in this judge's room over those 2.5 years.
That's the discussion, if the war can be judged or not. That's the discussion in the series. And that's what 11 judges from different countries are coming together, and that's what they're putting their point of views.
The different countries have such a different understanding of what the law means, and they had a lot of trouble coming to agreement and didn't. They failed in a lot of ways, but they tried.
And in the end, they had to go with a majority decision, but a lot of sensitivity was shown to people who had different opinions as well. And it was acknowledged at the trial that not all the judges agreed.
All right.
Most of the judges, they know almost in the beginning what kind of sentences they would give and what their opinion was. And Rowling was the one who was shifting. So at a certain moment he got a very good relationship with Paul, the Indian judge, and Paul was saying that all the Japanese men who were there in trial, that we should not give them a sentence because they tried to defend their country and they tried to free Asia from the colonists. And the other judges didn't understand that, they didn't want to hear that.
My character, Mr. Kramer, thought, yes, war can be judged as specifically the war crimes that the defendants were being tried for. That's what one of the main arguments, if not the main argument, was that the Japanese not just fought a war, but they fought an atrocious war and did things that didn't need to happen.
Was my character satisfied? No. He didn't believe in hanging, and he tried very much not to convince his fellow judges, justices, not to pursue the death penalty, but there was a majority of the judges who thought the death penalty was necessary to send an important message to the world in general, that people in high places should be held to account for their actions.
The first scenes we shot in here in the studio was the judges at a cinema. And when they went to the cinema, the Nuremberg trial was in its closing phases while the Tokyo trial started. And they saw in Tokyo the film that had been made of the concentration camps when the Americans first went in. And of course that was deeply shocking.
It was very hard to find a balance between the facts and drama. Well, we're not making a documentary, but we have to stick to the truth.
Our job is to make the audience forget that they are watching a documentary, but give them the impression that they are actually experiencing a proper human drama.
But the events that are known and documented, they are recreated very accurately.
It's a very important time in history, and we should know all about it.
History isn't a long time ago. It's just right behind us. And if we don't pay attention to it, we'll put it right in front of us again. We'll do it again. That's why this piece is important.